Hey everybody, you're listening to the BTW Media Podcast, the show that explores the stories, innovations, and insights for people who love technology and the internet. Today we're really delighted to welcome Alexander Timokhin back to the show. He is the Chief Operating Officer at InterLIR, overseeing the sales, leasing, and auditing of the IP addresses. We met Alexander again at RIPE 89 in Prague, and in this episode, he will share his insights on recent changes in the IPv4 market over the past few months and the company's plans to expand into Hong Kong and Singapore. Hello everyone, he is BTW Media and Faye in RIPE 89. In this episode, we are delighted to welcome Alexander Timokhin back, who we already know actually. If you keep staying with me, Alexander Timokhin, really nice to see you at RIPE 89 in this beautiful city, Prague. Even though we've known you before, but for our new audience, would you please introduce yourself again?
Yeah, sure, Faye. Well, pleasure to be back on your podcast. My name is Alexander Timokhin. I'm Chief Operating Officer at InterLIR GmbH. We manage IP addresses, we'll sell them, list them, and audit them as well. And before that, I used to work for the British government in Brussels. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a short introduction of my work and myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that. I'm sure you'll remember when we interviewed you in Poland a few months ago. But 5 months passed, you probably have some new ideas and want to share with us. Here, I've already elaborated some questions for you, so let's get started.
Yeah, sure.
So the first one is, over the past 6 months, have you observed any notable changes in the IPv4 market that's worth our attention?
Well, I would say that if you remember during our last conversation in Krakow, yes, I mentioned that in my humble opinion, it's a good time to invest in the IP addresses. And what I predicted and what I have seen over the past 5 or 6 months, it actually confirms that because the price is finally stabilized.
Oh, really?
Yes. Actually, we have seen a drop in prices for big blocks like /16, but now it's finally on the same level with the other blocks. And I do believe if we look at the data over the time, it's actually, I don't remember the last time the prices were in such a low position. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what is notable is the fact that lease prices are actually increased. So it's now becoming more expensive to lease IP addresses. And that is why I strongly suggest to anyone who has free money just to buy IP address and invest in them, because I don't think you will find a better investment right now in the market, because with the current rates, it's going to be like 16% annual return on the both addresses. It means that in 5, 6, or 7 years, you actually
More valuable.
More valuable. Yeah, your investment would pay off, and you will still have an asset. So, but I think that's the only notable change, that the price for IP addresses has stabilized, and I actually myself invest in them, my personal money. So that's a strong statement of how much I believe in the IP addresses. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I think also what is notable is that finally I can see that the demand for IP addresses, both in leasing and in purchasing, has started to increasing, because it was a summertime back in Krakow, so it was usual downtime for the business, and now everybody got back from holidays and back to work. So now it's
peak time?
Yes.
So the next one is, while IPv4 is still in high demand, IPv6 adoption is gradually increasing. What are your view on the long-term market prospect for IPv6?
Well, to be frank with you, I'm not a huge believer in IPv6. And the reason for that is that IPv6 has been around for almost 20 years by now.
20 years.
Yes. And I can still hear people and I don't know, other RIPE members saying that IPv6 is the future. But the reality is that it's not so modern anymore. It's been around 20 years and we still have not switched to this protocol. And
maybe there's a switcher?
Well, I mean, we still try to implement, and there is an adaptation rate, and there are some countries, like, for example, China.
I don't see a lot of paper about that.
Yes, you're right. There's not a lot of paper about that. Adaptation rate is quite high in some countries, for example, like China, or some European countries. I think the leader is France. But adaptation rate doesn't mean that those countries are throwing away IPv4. No, they still use IPv4, and the demand is growing in each country. So what it means actually that we will see two separate protocols that develop on the same time, and I don't see IPv6 taking place of IPv4 in the future 20, maybe 30 years. And actually one of the reasons for that is economics. When I was in high school, my favorite teacher, his name was Ivan.
I won.
Yeah, he said that world revolves around five things: MONEY, money. So everything
That's
that
the truth.
yes, everything in the world is based on money. And when I talk to the people who use IP addresses, both V6 and V4, and I mean big companies, hyperscalers, or Wall Street traders, the ones who that use for high frequency trading, they need IP addresses. They say to me that basically all of them say the same thing. If we look at the price combined in the total services that they purchase, for example, a server which connected to the internet or which allows them to do high-speed trading, the price of IPv4 protocol there, it's less than 10% of the total price of other purchases. So they don't care if the price for IPv4 will double or triple or even quadruple, because it still will be just a small percentage of the total costs. And they telling me that also to switch from V4 protocol to V6 protocol requires a lot of security developments in the security standards. So it's just too complicated, and right now it doesn't worth their time. That is why I believe until IP addresses will be worth like $150, $20 per IP, which we are still far away from that, we will not be switching to V6 protocol anytime soon. But we can use the V6 at the same time to develop new projects, because I know some countries and some people like V6. So I cannot stop them from doing that. But like I said, it's my humble opinion.
Okay, so next one is last time you also mentioned that your company InterLIR plans to expand into Hong Kong and Singapore. So what's the unique about the IP address management in these markets compared to other regions? Because I originally come from China, but now I live in Great Britain. So I do feel there's a huge difference between like the policy or the policymaker, what's the attitude toward this kind of thing. So
Well, actually, you're quite right. I think you will be a better expert in this area than I am, because I have not yet visited China or Singapore. I'm planning to do it for this New Year's. But as far as business concerned, you're quite right that there's two different environments. So to expand into Hong Kong and Singapore, our company faces a lot of challenges like navigating through regulatory requirements, especially regarding data protection, cybersecurity, which significantly differ from policies in other regions. Also, Hong Kong and Singapore have unique IP address management challenges due to high urbanization and due to, let's call it, limited IPv4 availability right now in the region, which increases in turn demand for the V6 protocol and efficient IP address allocations. So this is the challenges that we're seeing there. But at the same time, which I really like about those two mentioned regions, it's a high level urbanization, and it's very, those markets offer strong digital ecosystems, which I don't think we can find anything else compared in Europe, for example. It's just not on the same level. And we actually see that in Singapore and Hong Kong, adaptation of new technologies, the rate of the adaptations is quite high. That is what makes those markets are so interesting for us. And those are the challenges that we are facing. And we still plan to expand to those regions in the upcoming year. So this is just a broader view right now. And we cannot wait to get to those markets, because I'm sure there will be new challenges that we are not aware of right now.
yeah, definitely the context is the different. And the policy, the whole process will be different.
Yes, and what I actually think about Asia in general as a region in terms of digitalization and the policies, I think way ahead of Europeans sometimes, which is actually, I think, good. Europeans have to look at the Asian countries and see what they're doing and maybe take them as an examples. Because the economies of those countries are very high tech, which we have to admire, I guess.
Okay, so apart from these three questions, what else would you like to add on?
Well, I think I would like to add that the last time we were in Krakow, I was talking about sovereignization of the internet and fragmentation, because this is something that I'm very concerned about. Because I live around the world, I don't have a permanent base, even though I work in Germany and my company is located in Germany. I travel quite a lot. I was brought up in Russia. I studied in Germany, so I consider myself like a citizen of the world.
Okay.
And I love internet, which is united, but the fragmentation that I see sometimes, I know it brings its benefits, but it also brings challenges. And one of the challenges for the enterprises that I actually managed to see was the fact when the countries like India, for example, they have a very strict law about data sharing between domestic and international companies. It stops the progress in such areas like machine learning or AI. Machine learning,
Okay.
yes. And AI, because those companies, those technologies require a lot of data, which is not usually stored in just one country. So the advantages of the global internet are unique to everybody. And I do believe that we should cooperate more rather than just building walls.
But for this kind of country, I mean India, so how can we access to that data?
Well, I mean, the Indian companies are, according to the law, well, they are obliged not to share their data.
Yes.
Maybe they should change policies.
Oh.
Well, that's a political issue, which is a bit more complicated, I guess.
Fundamental issue. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
easy to
Well,
change.
a little bit off topic, but last week I was in Greece.
Okay.
I was just taking a vacation and I went for the concert. And I was on a boat trip. And on the boat, I am Russian. There were also 2 Germans, 2 Americans, 1 couple from South Africa.
South Africa.
Yes. And the funny thing was that we didn't know each other, but we had such a good time together. And we didn't care from which countries we came. We didn't want to talk about politics. We were just enjoying the time together. And that's what I want to have in the world. Forget about borders, policies, politics. Let's just enjoy the time that we have here.
But in terms of implement,
You
we definitely need to talk about the policy. Need
Yes.
to talk about the border of the country.
Well, of course, no. I mean, physical borders will still remain, but I hope we will have more opportunities just to learn from each other. And those learning can only happen via cooperation.
Especially in this era,
Yeah.
we are really prevail at intercultural communication.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Look, originally you're from China, but you live in Edinburgh.
Yes.
And I'm from Russia, but I live in Germany. But we are here in Prague, in Czech Republic, meeting, and I think that is a beauty.
Okay. So, well, very appreciate to have you again, and I'm sure that our audience will learn a lot from your 2 interviews.
I'm happy to be on the 3rd one if you have me.
I hope we can continue to exchange the latest technological development at the next conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a good time here.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another episode.